Hi, intrepid viewers, and welcome to what I'm sure will be another week of crazy. So let's try and keep ahead of the curve and see what's going to happen, right? So it's hard to know where to start, isn't it? But now, what's my point number one? Oh, yes. So we can start with a couple of cases the Yeti has lost. He lost his right to immunity over the E. Jean Carroll case Mark II. So that was one. And he also lost in a case called Trump versus Thompson, which was the House Select Committee that wanted presidential records. I'm not sure he even kept presidential records. That could be an issue. He claimed privilege and he lost there. Right. But there's more on the horizon. So the Oversight Committee, the Dems have released certain figures that Trump got at least $7.8 million while in office. This is tip of the iceberg stuff, right? They're getting these figures from the Mazur accounting firm document, and they've only gone an inch into a pile this big, 7.9. This is going to blow out because again, the man was unrepentant. Remember, he would ask people, come and stay at my facilities. Everywhere we couldn't believe it because when he came down the escalator and then got in, we all had to learn how to spell emoluments because we all thought naively now, when you look back, we all knew that a president's not supposed to, at least overtly, make huge sums of money while he's in the White House. And he did that hand over fist, you know. So let's have a quick look. The humble old emoluments clause will will he be done for an emoluments breach, or are there too many other bigger things taking over? What's going to happen with the Yeti and emoluments? Look, hmm, I think he's going to get away with the emoluments, Kel Surprise. Right, they're thinking about it now. These numbers are coming out, and the numbers are only going to grow. The problem is there was an opportunity that was missed early on. There might be some court case going ahead around this, but there's two aces, meaning there's energy at the moment for a new approach on this. And I'm sure there's someone in the back rooms going, look, if all else fails, maybe we can get him on the emoluments. But I think he'll skate, moving away from a difficult situation. He's probably spent all that money now, and it's all gone. And that's the problem. It's a very clever tactic. If you just keep on committing crimes, it's hard for people to keep track. And that has been his hallmark, hasn't it? Now, Mike Johnson, the ultra Christian fundamentalist Speaker of the House, has somehow come to some middle ground and he's made a tentative deal about passing the budget. So, and that budget was, where are my figures here? Big figures. That I think it's 800 and something billion. Here we are, 886 billion for military spending and 704, in other words, 120 billion less on non-defense. And that got me thinking, intrepid viewers. I thought everyone knows America spends more than any other country in the world on defense, but I was interested in what percentage of the GDP is it? in America, right? So I don't know why I was surprised, but I was a bit surprised. It's extremely high. It's 12% of the total GDP of the country. Now, to put that in perspective, Australia spends 2.3% of the GDP, UK 2.4, same with France, Italy, Germany. The only one who spends more than that is Russia at 4 point something. So 12% is gigantic. And the sociologist in me can't quite believe it. The leading cause of death for American adults is heart disease, and the leading cause of death for children is firearms mishaps, or deliberate shootings. So if you want to keep Americans safe, you would spend money on heart disease prevention, diabetes prevention, and introduce gun control if you were serious about protecting American people. But that's not how the national narrative works. So 12%, I thought it was very high. But having digressed, Mike Johnson's under threat from all the usual players, the Freedom Caucus, etc. And there's talk in the corridor, whispers in the corridor, that he might be ousted like McCarthy. Let's have a look. Mike Johnson, is he under threat from within? Let's have a look. Oh, talk about whispers in the corridor. We've got the High Priestess here. At this point, it's unclear. I would say it's unclear what numbers he's got on his side. There might be what's left of the middle of the road GOP on his side, but we know dogs howling at the moon. It's extremely unclear. So at the moment, he seems all right. He gets the strength card. But I think no matter how you look at it, if he gets through this, he won't necessarily get through the next crisis. His days are numbered, tick, 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 with the wheel of fortune. And certain people will be very disappointed with him, even angry with him. High Priestess, what's their agenda? I think their agenda at the moment, even though they're feeling this, they don't like seeing any deal go through with the Democrats. But their secret agenda is it would look even worse to replace the speaker again. Right? You know, it's not high level stuff, it's low vibration stuff, right? So, but they really hate it. It drives them insane. It's like Biden's offered them what, 14 billion to increase security at the border. They don't want to accept it because then it would look like Biden's doing something at the border. And everything he does has to be written off or sabotaged or rewritten, you know. So they don't accept this money. It's so perverse. Speaking of perverse and hypocrites, I have to announce the winner of the Hypocrite of the Year Award 2023. Now, there was a long list. Thank you, guys. There are lots of fabulous suggestions. There's a couple of honorary mentions for Hypocrite of the Year. Lindsey Graham, of course, is a perennial because he's been around so long for Hypocrite of the Year. Bill Barr, he almost won. He almost won. But he gets an honorary mention for sabotaging the entire country by reinterpreting the Mueller report and then going around America and the world saying, I had no idea this man was a complete virulent nutcase. You know, hypocrite. But I think topically, the GOP head guy, Christian Ziegler, and his lovely wife, Bridget, So he's doing the don't say gay stuff, and she's mums for ignorance. And, they got caught in the sexual stuff, which always seems to happen with the GOP. So they win. It's a joint win. Husband and wife win for the Hypocrite of the Year. Well-deserved winners. Yeah. But thank you for your participation. So moving on now, let's have a look here. Giuliani. He is anywhere that'll listen to Giuliani. He's saying he wants to interview the Georgia, in the Georgia case, the Fani Willis case. He has approached through his legal team. The judge, I think, there is Scott McAfee or something. He's quite young, but very good. And he wants to interview everyone who got a pardon, or not a pardon, sorry, a plea deal. He wants to interview them. The problem with that, Rudy, is part of the plea deal is they are not to speak to Giuliani. It's part of the actual conditions. But there's never a case too hopeless to waste American money and time in the court systems. So will he get this court case? Will he get this court case? Giuliani. Oh dear, Rudy. Well, you don't have to be a tarot reader to interpret these cards, do you really? Okay. It's a sword too many for Rudy. He's on unstable footing. This is going to hang around as yet another complaint. I'm sure he could go on Bannon's channel or OAN, Newsmax, or any of those sort of outlets that pose as news outlets, let's put it that way. What's left of his friends are leaving him isolated. So I don't think this case has legs, to be honest with you. But now one of the biggies, big question. Now, the Supreme Court. So they're avoiding all the basics, things that should have been resolved 3 years ago, like what is an insurrection? I'm sorry, I'm just a humble Australian sociologist, but I would have thought that was pretty essential. But no, no. We'll just torture everyone for 3 years and still not come up with a definition. So they're looking for off-ramps. So one of the ones that's been suggested is, there's that question. The 14th Amendment clearly says anyone who is an officer of the government who participates in an insurrection cannot be on the ballot or hold public office ever again. Already, here's the insurrection, what is it question. They haven't answered. But now there's a new way for them to waste time. Is the president or is the president not an officer of the government? And it's not in the Constitution. So what are they going to do? Let's have a look. I mean, really, you could not make it up. It's gobsmacking. So will the Supreme Court find another off-ramp? Before I get into that, remind me, off-ramp. Just saying on New Year's Eve, we've raised over $8,000 for the World Kitchen that goes to trouble spots all over the world and gives out food, organised by Jen Lin. Thank you, Jen Lin. And that donation button is still open on her channel, Jen Lin Tarot. Excellent. And so I don't forget too, just a couple of days. On Wednesday, the 10th, I'll be on Linda G's channel. That'll be a hoot. And that's 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I think it's going to be live. So Linda G on your Wednesday, mid-afternoon PST. Okay, but we're looking now for the Supreme Court. I'm going to do a bigger spread because the Supreme Court is the hinge for all these things. And it's almost an art form in itself. How to avoid making a significant judicial decision, apart from reversing Roe versus Wade. That was a breeze. Okay. But anything that's about saving the nation, 3 years of polywaffle. 3 years of sitting on your hands, 3 years of not making decisions. Let's have a look where they're going, General. Have a little look here. Supreme Court. It's starting to become problematic for them. I think the Lover's card in the center. Now, for those learning tarot, of course, the Lover's card can be about a romantic thing, but just as often not. But it is about other pacts and agreements and any other mergers together. So what are the bulk of the Supreme Court? Who are they merged with? I'm glad you asked. The big money donors. Have you guys heard of the Atlas organization? Oh God, there's all these endless ways of funneling money to the GOP, things like that. Big money, Supreme Court in service of big money. I wish it was a revelation. But they are conflicted because most of them, probably even the Amy Comey Barrett types and things, they understand this is a very important point in history. And things were going really well, turning America into an active theocracy, but this is sort of different because should the Yeti get in and have his way, there's every chance the Supreme Court itself would be disbanded because if they ever made a ruling that didn't go his way, gone. So they realize on one level that it's a critical juncture, waiting for all the other courts to make a decision. It's like the Washington, D.C. Circuit Court has to make a decision like today or tomorrow or something in the Jack Smith case. What is that about? The election interference case run by it. So they're waiting for these other courts and hoping, it appears, if they make sound rulings, they'll keep pushing it back. Their real problem, though, is their inaction is becoming a burden to the nation. It really, really is a burden to the nation. So, look, we can only put it all together. Hope the Dems come in for a second term and take advantage of that. Now, speaking of the Dems generally, I read an article this morning and in the Washington Post, I think it was, where they were saying the Dems need to use the talent they've got at the next level down, like the second tier. They've got such smart, engaging people on the second tier. So part of that would include Stacey Abrams, Eric Swalwell, Katie Porter. They've got immense talent, and this argument was being made. Dems, please use them this year, election year. right? The different ones in different places. They could really, because America is so diverse in terms of like 50 little countries, they've got the talent to address that. I'll talk more about that in the next video. In the meantime, here's a couple of cards for you guys. Okay, let's have a look. This week for intrepid viewers, for me, it's about the tennis starting, but oops, what fell out? The world. Oh, double bless. Love that. One more card. The world. Okay. Oh, that's beautiful. The world. Temperance. Peace in the world. How gorgeous. How totally gorgeous is that? On a smaller scale, this might be talking about peace in your extended family, or at least a truce, but it's speaking global. So the more we think as global citizens, the more likely is the chance of having peace across many nations, but also dealing with climate change, dealing with any of the big issues, if we think as global citizens, right? Just remember, the world is round. You can't fall off. Okay? We're all connected. Wow. Gorgeous. So I'll see you when I'm on Linda's channel. I'm also back on Hogarth's channel for Saturday Night Live. In other words, business as usual later in the week. I'll see ya. Bye.